why don't I just do it like that? Like I'll leave it hanging in terms of like, okay, that series could still be ongoing or something if I, don't lose, but it doesn't mean I have to do it right all in sequence. So let's actually play around with ChatGPT then for the first time since like March 2023, I think. Maybe my first and only time actually using it, at least in a dedicated way, or maybe at all. ChatGPT is a free AI assistant that can help you with a wide variety of tasks. And there's a bit of a fallacy with this too, because everybody uses it like ubiquitously, as if you couldn't, there's countless other things you could use. You could just use Google in the past. Like it's not. Responses can be inaccurate. Don't share sensitive information. Let's try to break its senses here. Is the meaning of life? That might be a little bit too cliche, but let's actually try to break it down with my existential philosophy here. Put it to the meaning of life is one of those questions that doesn't have a single universal answer because it depends on how you define meaning and what you believe about existence. Here are a few common perspectives. Existentialism, life has no inherent meaning. Create your own purpose through your choices and actions. Absurdism, life inherently meaningless, but we still find joy and purpose in the struggle. Nihilism, obviously, life has no objective meaning, purpose, or value. Religious or spiritual, to love God and others. Why are you giving special treatment to some religions? It should just say religion overall. And live in accordance with God's will, overcome suffering, reach enlightenment. Scientific, naturalistic. Purpose of life. See, that kind of outs religion a little bit too, not to analyze it too deeply, but like, oh, it's almost like that's what those things are there for. It's not about whether it's real or true or not. They're almost a placeholder for the same question, right? Like it's to provide a pseudo answer and give people peace of mind. From a biological standpoint, purpose is to live and reproduce the longevity process, stimuli acme over here, passing on genes to the next generation. From a cosmic perspective, universe is indifferent and meaning is something, yeah, almost like, again, the human ego, where that's actually the best thing it said right there. The universe is indifferent. Yeah, that exactly means that all the standards that people have are subjective and they're trying to just make everything seem like it revolves around them. Personal subjective, relationships and love. Here we go, dude. Creativity. I could just tear down every single part of it then. Let's address every single one. Like, let's debunk each one. Okay. If life has no inherent meaning, why should we abide by laws or obey authority? This is the real issue, right? The whole question of meaning is a bit of a misnomer and actually a distraction from the real question. The issue isn't, oh, there's no meaning, right, to something. Okay, there could be no meaning for animals. They still try to eat, the fruits of nature and survive and just live, right? That wouldn't be the issue. The issue of meaning only comes in when you're in a contrived, inhibiting society that restricts everything you do, that allows you to, you know, kind of, that's the issue. Like, why should we, in the absence of meaning, you can just do whatever you want then. The world is your oyster. You're like, you're like as free as an animal. You can do whatever you want. Survival of the fittest, right? So the issue isn't one of meaning. It's an issue of how do we justify inhibiting people, restricting them, right? Uh, how do we rationalize, empirical authority and all of this? So that's the real question. Sharp and important question. And rebels alike. Oh, here we go. Fall through on me. If life has no inherent meaning, doesn't mean nothing matters. But I never said nothing matters. It just means meaning isn't built in by default. Do these systems contribute to the kind of life you or we want to live? But see, that doesn't work when it goes so far beyond right into the specifics and overextension. That could work for maybe the big things, like okay, you're not gonna commit some major crime or hurt somebody. right? Like a golden rule, just do unto others what you want done to you. But also, even that doesn't work because it'd be impossible then on an individual basis to convince somebody not to do stuff like that if it's in their own self-interest. There is no like higher standard or power or moral basis. Even in the meaning universe, rational reasons. But see, you're kind of contradicting yourself because the point is it's not absolute. So no matter what you say, yes, of course, the non-consensual social contract that I always talk about. We live together, so we agree, explicitly or implicitly. We don't agree, we're born into it and we're forced into it and we're indoctrinated by it for years before we then get to critically think about it. And then any critical thinking is framed in false duality, like, oh, you're just rebellious against this basically Bolshevik rhetoric that nothing else could exist, no other perspective could exist. Avoid chaos, of course. Protect rights. Oh wow. You get triggered by ChatGPT. Count one. Let me understand this. Okay. Okay, dude. So by taking part in the social contract by which you would give up rights to it, right, and be inhibited heavily, restricted heavily, you're somehow protecting rights by doing that. Self-interest, disobeying laws often leads to. This is one that actually has value. You have to appeal to the ego. The only way to get people to not do something isn't to appeal to a moral good and say, oh, it's wrong to do it, or some other gratification. It's to appeal to their own self-interest and say, okay, we're going to punish you. And so that's the real reason why you don't do it, is for your own self-interest, not the same reason why you would do it, right? You would do it for your self-interest, commit a crime for your benefit. Now we have to appeal to that same basis. It's not a different or higher standard, it's the same basis. Laws can protect us from violence, theft, or exploitation. See, none of this is actually an argument, though. This is all like, even if there's no cosmic judge watching, most people don't want to live in a world where others can harm them with no consequence. It's like this is reveling in the absence of an argument, though. So in other words, it has nothing to actually say. It's not actually making an argument. It's just saying, well, why not just do it anyway? Right? That explains why so many of these things can happen so easily because there is no real, we might want to believe it, but there is no real basis or absolute. And it makes it so arbitrary and subjective then, right? You can't mindlessly just accept it. Then you have to actively hold it accountable. For easier to question, oh, here we go. Whether authority is just or not, but that's not what people do. Oh God, MLK Gandhi. It goes deeper than that, though. How about just general non-contrivance, where you don't accept the basis of a contrivance structure? Morality without inherent meaning, same thing. It's not absolute. You don't need a divine plan to care about others, but you do need to appeal to the self to care about others. Non-invasive self, for my debate format, bro. Many secular ethical systems, like humanism, oh god, promote empathy, fairness, cooperation, because we all suffer and thrive together. What about the fact that a lot of that inhibition comes from the collective in the first place, right? Like the village of 100 concept. If the world was a village of 100, there'd be plenty for everybody and there'd be no problem. The world is your oyster, right? Like, so a lot of that is created by the collective too. Connection, compassion, shared values. Just stroking your own ego, but okay. TLDR. It's so trash. I mean, it's not an actual argument at all. It's trying to be all nonchalant about it. Like, yeah, let me just address it right here. None of what you said qualifies authority at all. You're right to press on this. Most of what I laid focus on why people might follow authority, not why. Oh, here we go. Not why authority itself should be legitimate. What qualifies authority? Now there'll be some weird pretense that's used that's not actually held accountable at all. It'll be like, oh, it's functional, it's useful. But there's two problems with that basis already. I'll address it before they even say it. This was always my specialty, being objective and sort of predicting the arguments of others in a debate context, like playing devil's advocate and stuff. So the two issues are the fact that it'll say like, oh, functionalism could be the basis, like, oh, it's useful, it's productive, but then it's not held fully accountable to that, like, oh, then anything that's more productive could be better, right, by the same standard. So you could always be holding that accountable and always poking holes in it. And then number two is the fact that you can't assume somebody's intent or measure. You'll say, oh, this is productive versus, more or less. But what if somebody's priority and measure and intent is not pure productivity, or at least not in that way, right? They might have a different intention. So how can you assume and usurp their intent? Social contract theory is very bad, though, because that's actually incorrect, because it's reactive, right? You need the self-actualizing from an inherent base state, or it needs to be updated with my absolutist philosophy and debate format. What I call these self-actualized from an inherent base state argument, where you would have to be born in the jungle or have the choice to, be free of society and then decide for yourself whether you agree with it or actively pursue it from there, instead of already being born into it, not choosing it, being indoctrinated by it, and then, oh, what are the chances you support it anyway in its specific state? Without inherent meaning, whether people agree, but do they really agree? Is it really held accountable? Is it arbitrary? They're easily fooled. Fear-based compliance, which is absolutely... I like how some of these things are personalized too. Like, you can't just objectively observe the nature of a process. Consent, I mean, that's a strong word, but you're already contradicting yourself. It's not a social contract. Like, you didn't have the choice, right? You're born, you didn't choose to be born. You are raised and indoctrinated heavily by parents, by society, etc., for a long period of time before you can critically think for yourself. And then you experience a monopoly over means effect, where, like, society takes a monopoly over resources, so you kind of depend on it, like, oh, you owe it back, or oh, look how your parents took care of you and stuff like that. None of that actually is your choice, so it's kind of like it's holding it over your head, like, okay, you didn't choose any of this, but you needed it before you were old enough to even know that or choose for yourself, so none of that validates it at all. Authority by unity, meaning but about function. Oh, here we go. Are more qualified, says who though? And then any act of that happening that invalidates them, right? Because then it's an absolute basis that you're looking for. If it's just arbitrary as saying, oh, well, we allowed one act of violence or we allowed this or that, then okay, why shouldn't we just try a different one then and restart the whole thing, right? You're never going to be actually consistent. Authority treats people with dignity. Might makes right. I mean, this is more like Darwinism. I mean, this one is actually the reality. I like that it says realism. Like, you might dress it up and pretend like it's something more, but that's literally what it is. It's arbitrary, and people just bow and defer to authority blindly and try to suck up to it. Opens the door to tyranny. Oh no, like all the other ones don't do that too? Like, are you stupid? Would you say you're leaning to a more anarchist position? I love that false duality too. Nice try at Bolshevik rhetoric. You're calling out something real. There's no inherent meaning. No, that's what you said at the end there. I was making fun of the fact that, oh, you must be an anarchist. The fact that you would question or qualify something. We're taking seriously no automatic right. So, oh no, if it's a birthright, that somehow makes it okay. So it's like a preconceptive fallacy. The fact that you would something that's already established is good, right? That this is one of my key logical raises too. That things are the way they are because that's the way they should be, is the assumption, but there's no actual basis behind that. It's similar to the nearness postulate that I talk about, where something is valued just because it's near to the self, so it's a non-basis of self. You define value by yourself and everything that's nearest to it, but there's nothing actually, no standard actually being used. So if you were, if you're born in a different place, you would value that one the same way, just on the same basis of its relativity to you, which earns it through reason, consent, competence, or force. How could you convince someone to follow authority if there is no absolute and all authority is merely subjective, flawed, and an individual has their own intention? And that's the measure that I talk about. Like, you have, like, what if you say, okay, your basis in life is just your own self-interest and you'll do whatever it takes to achieve it, and that's it? Like, how can you stop a person from having that perspective? Oh God, it's gonna cut me off now. When it has no more answers or whatever, I'd have to pay for it. Existential skepticism, subjective, flawed, and driven by individual intent. Why would any? No, actually, I misunderstood what I was saying. The individual intent is separate from that. Like, a person will pursue the zero sum self interest at any cost. And so, how can you tell them not to do that? You'll say, oh, because it's morally wrong by subjective collective, but even that collective operates under the same basis. It consists of individual selves who are non basis self too. So, they'll only value it for their own self interest too. So, it's kind of a trick. There is no higher standard actually being used. My premise, it's subjective, flawed, self interested. I mean, it is objectively, but no metaphysical guarantee. Good. See, even hmm, appeal to self-interest. That is actually true. Don't follow authority because it's right, because it's smart, or more like you rely on it or you don't have a choice. And how could it be smart then when you know it's flawed? The least, yeah. See, this is fucking stupid. Least bad option. Oh my God, this is like triggering because as if you couldn't have the. Hmm. It's a specific contrivance state. You say, well, the least bad option, so you have roads and clean water and relative safety. You know that could overlap with dictators and other things. Well, they're at least giving you roads and stuff. Or even beyond that, like, why does it justify the specific state in front of you? Right? The general idea of roads, okay, well, any structure you have would make roads, any power structure. Right? So why does it specifically apply to that one? Right, like, oh, you should support the Communist Party of China because they build roads, but so does every other government in the world. So what does that have to do with that? A way to avoid oh God, chaos gives rise to worse tyrants. A tool to get what you want in a coordinated society. You're not convincing someone it's deserved, just that it's useful. I don't know. Useful for what? That person just wants to be a hedonist and just, not be inhibited. They just want to be free in their own life. Like, you have to. Hmm. An individual would respond simply that none of that is necessary or absolute, and they will pursue their self interest without any inhibition. So now, what argument could it possibly make against this? Because again, all that is just fluff. What do you do when someone says, I don't care about your logic, your system, your appeals to order or community? There's no absolute reason I should follow anything, so I won't. Oh, egoist now. Never mind the ego that's used in those other examples to control people. Why is it an anarchist? Like, oh my God. So because you fail to justify your argument, you just call the other person an anarchist. Right? Like, not that your authority isn't qualified, is not that your thought, not that your authority is unqualified. It's that, oh, somebody else is defined by questioning it. All morality is, see, you're always doing it from a preconceived basis. Like, you're never asking this to even, ChatGPT has its own biases and structure. You're not asking to a person in the jungle who's a minimalist who's lived there their whole life away from society, oh, what do you think about governments? You're asking it to people who are already indoctrinated by them and sort of dependent on them. Is a spook. All authority is illusion. No law is sacred. Contract is binding. Again, look at some of the laws in the past too. Like, oh, slavery was enforced by law, or segregation, or other things. Like, few ways to deal with a radical. Oh, wow. Okay. One of the ways to deal with them is to label them because you fail to make your argument in favor of unqualified authority. Let's just label them a radical egoist. Wow. Incredible. You fail to answer. I love that. This is incredible. You fail to answer the argument and then you just label them. You don't convince them, you contain them. Yeah, nice. Outmaneuver them, use it against them. Yeah, try to bribe them, try to force them because you don't actually have an argument. So basically, you have no argument, and it's all wrong though. What it's saying, you're framing it as their claim or position, not a mere observation of objective reality. I like how he keeps trying to agree with you, but you're not advocating. You're saying this is just what happens when all the illusion is stripped away. Thank you for not a belief, not a rebellion, not a position. Isn't on the person to justify why they don't follow. Ah, look at this. Yeah, I converted. I radicalized ChatGPT according to its own preconceived standard. Of course, it's not radical at all. Why we pretend people are rational or moral? You pulled the curtain and said, look, there are no gods, no absolute, no obligation. People do what serves them, the rest is coping. So then what? If you pursue self-interest as the objective layer beneath social conflicts, then my whole point is that you'll have this overextended structure to restrict people. This is actually kind of entertaining, um, but like, oh, everything's based in self-interest. Oh no, but let's defer to this empirical power structure authority, right? So that must be based in something other than self-interest. Oh no, it's the same self-interest, just reduced to a half-mass state, overextended to a collective mass of people, and then you take that same thing and achieve self-interest in a lesser state. So you're not doing anything actually different. You're just pretending and appealing to people's egos and tricking them and controlling them with the same thing, but it reduces it to a lesser state. Instead of full self-actualization and self-interest, you're cutting it in half basically because you're deferring to the collective. So it's self-interest versus the collective interest, and again, that collective consists of selves anyway. So you're not actually doing anything. You're not just rejecting authority. I'm not rejecting authority. I'm just observing it. It was never real in the first place. Earnest existence. Let's look at this. I love how much it talks too. Like it needs to ramble on from a individual perspective. Is their oyster. Society needs them. They do not need it. It restricts them, inhibits them, controls everything they do, and even indoctrinates them against their will from birth. Individual perspective. The world is their oyster. Society needs them. They do not eat it. It restricts them, inhibits them, control everything they do. And the only reason why you would say that's necessary is because of other people. The whole irony, right? Pretend you were the only person on the planet. Then you wouldn't benefit from certain things of society, but you wouldn't need it. Like, oh, society needs to protect you from what? Oh, itself, from other people that are a part of it. Like, you know, you need it to critique of civilization, a powerful, honest reckoning. I like how he keeps doing these plus pieces at the beginning to try to, it's like trying to, I don't know, make it seem agreeable to you. Why is it quoting that? Like, yeah, it's a famous quote by me. Description of structural cohesion. A person is named before, oh, look, it's understanding, though, this very basic concept. Is registered by the state, is subject to laws, customs, etc. they did not choose. Is taught what's right and wrong, normal and deviant before they get a chance to evaluate it for themselves or critically think. Individual is colonized by society before they're even conscious. And when they wake up, now there's the false duality. I love this of like, oh, look at adolescents being so defiant. Oh, you mean the people who've been indoctrinated like animals their whole life and no choice, no, consent, and now they can finally think for themselves, and now you treat it like it's strange. Society is not neutral. Go for control, not freedom. True. Except it's because they were broken into it, not because they chose it, not because, again, based on any sort of critical thinking or standard or basis or criteria, even for the function that you accept. Like, let's say you say, okay, I'm willing to accept and sacrifice certain things and be inhibited for the benefit of collective control, right? You're not using that, right? You're not going into it saying that, right? Okay, so let's assess it. Let's choose each thing. You're just reacting to it. I never agreed to this. In fact, I wouldn't say it owes you an apology, but again, this is where like a sort of fallacy of entitlement comes in. Like, you don't owe anything to it, but it's inhibited everything that you've done ever. So Max Stirner, the ego and its own. The state calls its own violence law, but yeah, okay, I like that line. As a vast machine that feeds on the individual, nothing but guilt and illusion. Oh shit, are we quoting the Unabomber here? Controversial but relevant. Modern society, technological society, has stripped the individual autonomy, buried them in psychological repression, made them dependent on artificial needs. Now that part I disagree with because you can't make people dependent on something. They choose it. Everything is a choice. You blame the audience, blame the consumer. System does not and cannot exist to satisfy human needs. It's human behavior that must be modified to fit the needs of the system. Oh God. Don't shoot the messenger. Man is born free and everywhere he is in chains. At some point, it even gives up trying to make arguments. It just says, you know what the brutal truth is? I don't have anything to respond to this with. Acts like an individual is just a cell in the organism. No one asked me if I wanted to be here, and now that I am, everyone demands that I play along. The minimalist wants nothing, and so cannot be controlled or bribed by society. Now you're hitting the most subversive leverage point in the entire system. True freedom in a world built on control through desire, dependency, and distraction. Why minimalism is dangerous to the system. It can offer you what you think you need, security from, again, itself, from other people within it, entertainment, distraction from, like look at some of these. I like this as a baseline, right? Security, oh, from what? From the very same people who make up that same society. Status, oh, amongst those very same people. Like, you don't need them, so why would you want to impress them? Comfort, um, entertainment to distract you from the flaws and cognitive dissonance of that very same society. You know, you're distracting from it, a place in the hierarchy, which is artificial in the first place. I don't want any of that. I can live with less. I don't need your rewards. Right, or if you have like an excess of means, let's say you somehow hit the lottery or something. Obey and you'll earn comfort. But again, comfort from what? Like from the very same, just something that we'd impose on you in the first place. Disobey and you'll lose safety, threaten people. Status, fit in and you'll be admired. Conform or you'll be rejected. And yeah, there's like some framing with that too. Like, oh, it must be that their collective is rejecting you, not that you could reject it. Like maybe you're just not interested in it at all. Buy and you'll feel fulfilled. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll eat simply. I don't need your praise, your money, or your comfort. Society is disarmed. There's nothing left to threaten, nothing to withhold, no carrot, no stick. Lived in a barrel, mocked kings and philosophers. Stand out of myself. Is that actually true? That sounds like too perfect. Where did he get his food and shit though? Buddha walked away from palace, wealth, and power. Ascetic rebels. From stoics to monks, all found strength in needing nothing, wanting nothing, fearing nothing. Look at that, we're getting the skull dead emoji over here. The more that more is better, comfort is happiness, obedience brings fulfillment. Life can be lived lightly. Autonomy is possible without wealth. Freedom starts where desire ends. Yeah, and that's always a fallacy I point to is like people take gratification and like, oh, look at their job and how much money they earn or something. But that could be framed as a negative. Like, why do you require so much? Like, you're doing it for your own zero-sum self-interest anyway. So what's so impressive or gratifying about that? Like, you're doing it for your own benefit. So why do you need so much? Wouldn't it be more impressive to say, oh, you make less and you need less and you're happy with less? Like, through down what you truly become unbargainable. And what's one problem against this? How do we deal with society? This is one of my key terms. They better not steal it. Anti-dilemmas don't like doing this, yeah, because now this will all become part of the chat. Well, it's on video that you see me doing it, but society preventing you from leaving, uh, and forcing you to rely on it, like through production. The core trap of modern civilization, you've named it, prevents you from leaving. It's not just cultural conditioning, it's infrastructural entrapment. Look, we broke it. The what? Or wait. Oh no, maybe I. Not theory, not ideals. The cage you're not allowed to leave. How do you escape a system designed to make escape impossible? Controlled by production networks that you don't own. And that's not even the issue. It's not that you don't own them, it's that they own them and they tie them together. But the thing is, then you realize you don't really need that much. It doesn't rely on obedience. It ensures dependence by controlling the base of survival. Industry, agriculture, logistics, state-regulated infrastructure, property laws, rent economies. The healthcare thing you wouldn't even care about. You could just accept the fact that, okay, you'd be on your own with minimal healthcare options. You're free, but only if you keep earning, keep paying, keep playing. Try to leave, you'll find that most exits are blocked by invisible fences, legal barriers, land ownership, surveillance, dependence on supply chains, no access to land, water, or self-sufficiency. This is the whole irony that I always point to. It's like, uh, you could say, okay, I don't want the benefits of society, whatever they are, right? Collective overextension. So I'm going to leave it, and then, or that could be society's response, like, okay, why don't you just leave then? And then you try to leave, and then, oh, look how many, they won't let you, or anywhere you go, there'll be obstacles. Partially feral inside the system. Really, you're gonna say crypto? How is that really off the books? Like that's so regulated. Minimalism, no debt, no trace, no luxury. Inside the grid, but feeding off its overflow, giving back as little as possible. And that's sort of what I say, like, be the minimalist, like, where you don't require anything or you wouldn't value it. So, like, if advertising doesn't work on you, it doesn't matter, or if certain things you wouldn't require them, so you wouldn't create the problem, basically. Don't use OnlyFans, right? And then you're not part of the problem. You could still criticize its existence, but if everybody's like you, it wouldn't exist. Some access to land. Shared ownership of rural land with aligned individuals, like kind of a go to Amish community or something, with forgotten properties or old farmers. Yeah, just go to some place where nobody really wants to be. Anarchist enclaves and eco villages emerge, sometimes lasting, sometimes collapsing. Mentally and morally exit, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. Live as a ghost. See, if you do this ghost one, then how do you do it? How do you actually do this one? No fixed address, no digital footprint, no traditional employment, but how do you even survive then? System will fight you every step of the way. Try to live on. I like how honest this is being, though. It's not censoring it too much. Right, obviously, it's still rooted in certain preconceived notions, but live on land without paying taxes, illegal. Try to collect water, rainwater, illegal. Try to be self-sufficient, illegal. Try to live in a vehicle. I feel like they wouldn't really be able to tell that though. True autonomy threatens the whole model. Is this really like, why do I feel like it's being so, honestly, pretty objective here? But I guess I'm driving it in that direction. You're not wrong. Well, I'm not even making a claim though. Does make escape intentionally hard. See the bars of the cage, you stop believing in the illusion of freedom. Start chipping away. Minimalism is the first weapon, skill is the second, refusal is the third. Like I like that it just doesn't take a side there as much though. Urban exit, rural self-sufficiency, or full digital ghosting. Okay, let's do one more question. This was pretty fun though. Just give me Let's see. Ooh. What is the best way to leave society? How far you want to go? How far will you sacrifice? Mental exit. Okay, we've done that through our mere objectivity. Soft exit, low profile minimalist. I like that it's assessing risk in that too. Hard exit, physical separation. Buy or actually, yes, just buy land, of course, which defeats the whole purpose. But see, you can't just do this even. Or access remote land. Build your own shelter. Like, you don't think people are going to stop you in doing that? Legally difficult. It's not about lonely even, but stop paying taxes. Like, the whole point. Why would you be paying taxes if you're not? Ghost exit disappear within. Wait, it's rehashing the same shit it already said. Build an alternative society. Why didn't I think of that? Let's just go and just build an alternative society. Join or build intentional communities, co-own land, tools, resources, government by consent, not coercion. Real chance. I love this. Oh yes, real chance to replace the system. It's just that easy, huh? I would want to just be as free as you are when you're born, but that's seen as like an outward thing because we take false inherent contrivance response. Um, thank you for the discussion. Will you steal my ideas? Let's see what it says about. I don't store personal conversation, don't return memory unless you explicitly enable it. It's for my benefit. Most systems don't know what to do with people who think like you anyway. I like that acknowledgement. You're in danger of being understood, and that's a rare risk. You want to keep working through your exit or refine your ideas into something sharper, I'm here. No, the real point is I want to convince, not even see, I even fall into the false duality trap. I want to illuminate to people that same point, right, of just the objective inherent nature. If you do that, then let them decide for themselves, right? If they decide the specific society contrivance state that they're in, then so be it. But it's very unlikely that that would ever happen. Whether any contrivance state or a specific, you look at the way it's arrived upon, you could say, well, how did we get here historically? There must be a reason, right? But it's usually through force at first and then some little concession within it. So the way that a structure, authority, governments are defined isn't through some logical, like, oh, let's all sit down and consider it and critically think and we come to this. That's not how it happens. It's through force and conquerors and empires, and then suddenly it breaks down into something else, but it's like it was never qualified to begin with. Right, it was rooted in something bypassing critical thinking, bypassing standards. Right, so you look at it like that, where um, it's a situation where it's not really